Greetings to you all. Welcome to Grade 8 Tutorials. My name is Afari Ernest, and today we are going to look at organizational behavior and under it personality. Okay, so here our learning objectives. We have the concept of personality, and also you should be able to explain the nature and determinant of personality after the lesson, and you summarize what the dimensions of personality, explain how the several dimensions of personality can be relevant to organizational behavior and also applied to the management of an organization's human resource. And so everything about personality, we are going to talk about how individuals think and how they feel and how they behave towards the thinking and the feeling. You get it? So everything about this personality is about what thoughts, feelings, and what behaviors. Okay. So we have already talked about it. Let's look at personality. And so in management studies, when we say personality, it refers to the unique set of characteristics or traits, the patterns of behavior that influences an individual's interactions. That is the way you talk, the way you think, the way you behave, the way you do your things. That shows what your personality. I hope you get that. And so the relatively enduring individual trait and disposition that forms a pattern distinguishing one person from all others. The way you think might be different from what someone also think. The way you behave might be different from what someone also behaves. So that is what we mean by personality. And so the definition suggests that the concept of personality refers to the notion of individuality. People differ significantly in the ways they routinely think, feel, and act. So, as I said, everything we are going to talk about is what think, feel, and what act. That is how you behave towards the thinking and the feeling. Do you get it? And so, let's move on. So, let's look at the determinants or influences on personality. And so here we have the nature and the nurture debates on when it comes to determinant. And so the nature and the nature debates, this one is on personality that revolves around the relative contributions of genetics. And so the genetics here talks about what the nature, you get it, and environmental factors, which is the nature. So according to human development, or when it comes to personality, is it the nature that determines individual's personality, or is the nature that determines what individual personality? So when you are basing on the nature aspect, it means you are talking about what genetics or hereditary characteristics. And so here the motion or the notion is that people inherit some behaviors and characters from what their parents. I hope you get it. That is from birth. And so when it comes to the genetics or the nature, we say personality traits are largely inherited and influenced by what genetics. So genetic factors shape brain structure and function, influencing personality. So you see that when it comes to nature, you can see that sometimes identical twins show similar perspective traits, supporting the role of what genetics. I hope you get that. Then when we talk about the nature aspect, the nature aspect talks about what the environment, that is cognitive, the way we derive or we absorb information from the environment and behave towards it. And so for the nature perspective, personality traits are shaped by environment factors such as upbringing, experiences, and culture. Environmental factors influence what your brain, and it can also shape what your personality, because any society that you find yourself in, it is likely that you try to adopt what with the society, you try to adopt some of the culture and norms, some of their ways of doing things, you try to adopt it. And so that one talks about what the nature aspect of what personality. Do you get it? And so according to interactionist from interactionist perspective, here we say the genetics and the environmental factors are all necessary in human development when it comes to personality. I hope you get that, because genetics predisposition can also influence on individuals environmental influences. So your upbringing, as in your hereditary characteristics, or the kind of teaching your parents give you, I hope you get it. The kind of things that you inherited from your parents can also have an impact on what you also what you behave towards in the environment. Okay, so from the interactionist perspective, it means genetic factors and environmental factors are what all essential in human what development. Okay, so let's move on to determinant of what perspective personality. So for this perspective, it deals with three factors when you want to determine what an individual's personality. Here we have one as social factors, another as cultural factors, and we have what situational factors. So when we say the social factors, what does it mean? So when we say the social factors deals with the environment. I hope you get it. So the social factors talks about how you develop an outgoing personality if they are encouraged by what their family. So it basically talks about what socialization. Do you get it? So how you behave towards what people in the environment. I hope you get it. That is the social factors. So basically what socialization. Then when it comes to the cultural factors also deals with what the cultural values in that you find yourself in. Do you get it? And the situational factors also deals with what your participation in social what events. And so some of the examples under, let's say, social factors, you can talk about what, let's say, a person who is frequently criticized uh, criticized may develop what a more defensive personality, because the more you criticize the person, the more the person is able to defend his or herself. I hope you get that. And that is what a social factor. And also, let's say, if you try to encourage someone in everyday life, as in the person should keep on doing this, that person may grow or develop what a confident what personality. I hope you get that. And so when it comes to the cultural factors too, a typical example you can say is what the cultural values in the society. So you see that in some cultures, if you are assertive or if you are an extrovert, they like. Whilst in other society too, if you are an introvert, they also like those kind of people. Do you get it? So with personality, it is a way of viewing someone's behavior. I hope you get that. So someone may like you because you are an extrovert. Someone may also like you because you are introvert. I hope you get it. So that one talks about what the culture. I hope you get it. And so you see that a person's culture, that emphasis on education, may also develop a more intelligent personality. It is what we believe in. Then let's also talk about the situational factors. So for the situational factors, we can also say that, you see, whenever a person is frequently in high pressure situations, they may develop competitive personality. So you see that each and every day they are in aggressive way. I hope you get that. That is situational. And so let's move on to our next slide. That is determinant of personality. We are still on this slide, and here we say personality is stable over periods of time. Example, from 5 to 10 years, because half of the variations is inherited from parents. So from this view, we are saying personality is stable from 5 to 10 years. I hope you get that. Then it also changes from 30 years of age, or sometimes even more than 50. And so here we are saying your whole personality is stable in this age, in between this age. And when you get to 30, your 50s and your 60s, that is where your personality also change. And so that is also part of the determinant of personality. And so let's look at similarity attraction theory. And so this theory states that people are drawn to others who share similar characteristics, values, or beliefs, or sometimes interest, right? And so you see that this theory suggests that similarity is the key factor in attraction. And so when you are similar to someone, there is going to be an attraction between you, because you share something in common. So that is the whole thing about similarity attraction theory. So people associate themselves with those that they think they behave in a way that they also behave. That is similarity attraction theory. And so there are several main theories or perspective or personality, including, so here we are going to look at some perspectives. And so first of all, we look at the trait perspectives. So for the trait perspectives, we have what the 5-factor model and Cartel's 16 PF. And also we have what the second perspective that we'll be looking at, that is psychodynamic theory. And we also look at other personality perspectives. So we are going to start with the trait perspective. Okay, so for trait perspective, here we say people exhibit a wide range of behaviors, yet within that variety are obvious patterns, right? And that is refers to as the personality traits. So for example, in describing the personality of an employee, one would probably make a number of descriptive statements, right? So with traits, we are interested in your character. I hope you get. Here we are interested in how you think, how you feel, and how you also behave, right? That's why we say together this statement describes personality traits. So genetically inherited behavioral tendencies that reveal themselves in a particular pattern of human behavior. So here, are you introvert? Are you extrovert? Are you down, or are you that kind of aggressive? Do you get it? So we are interested in the traits. And let's move on to the next one as we explain more. And so here, a trait is a specific component of personality that describes the particular tendency of a person has to feel, think, and act in certain ways, such as shy or outgoing. I hope you get that. So here we are interested in who you are. I hope you get that. Either the nature or the nurture aspect. We are interested in who you are, how you feel, how you think, and how you behave. That is the trait, right? And so for the historical background, we say almost 2,000 years ago, the ancient Greek used humoral theory to explain individual differences in personality. The body was thought to contain 4 humors or fluids. So we have the black bile, blood, phlegm, and yellow bile. So we are going to look at the black bile, blood, phlegm, and yellow bile, what they represent when it comes to the trait perspective. They used this humoral or the fluids from human body to represent some sort of behavior or traits when it comes to humanitarian perspective or theory. And so let's look at them. Here we say the personality of individual was classified according to the disposition and supposedly produced by the predominance of one of these humors in the body. And so let's look at them. And so they all talk about temperament. That is why normally in some books they call it 4 temperament, right? And so let's look at it. 4 primary temperament. We have the sanguine. That is blood. And so for sanguine, here we say some people who has predominance of blood were cheerful and passionate. And so some of their characteristics, you see that they have strengths, they are somehow team players, and they communicate, right? And so you see that these people, they are assertive, right? They are extroverts. And so those that represent blood, they are assertive, they always work in groups. You see that they are good in communication, and they are easily to adapt in anywhere that they go. That is sanguine, right? And so this is also refers to as the talker, right? Talker. That is why we are saying they are extroverts. So they are referred to as the talker. And so normally, let's say in an organization, some of their rules you see that because they can talk, so they are normally at the marketing department, as in promoting the business and its products. And also they are found around customers. They provide customer service, and they are most at times team leaders because they are assertive. And so sanguine, that is the blood people, they are talkers, or they are extroverts. And let's also look at the melancholic people. And so for melancholic too, we say they are analytical, right? They are creative. And so for these people, what they do is they always think I hope you get that. They always take, when it comes to some of their strengthness to they are what detail oriented. Any work that you give to them, right, they will just sit down, analyze it, go into details with it, and provide you with good information, right? And also, when you look at these people, that is melancholic people, when you look at their roles in organizations, they, because of the critics and what the analytics, their roles are mostly at what the research and development, right? And when it comes to what consultation and also briefings, because they are able to do what analyze, they are able to think, they are creative, they can build up any point. Do you get it? And so that is what the melancholic people, and they represent what the black bile. Do you get it? They represent the black bile, and so they are known as what thinkers. So just have it in mind that the black bile, they think, they analyze, and so they are known as what thinkers. And also, let's look at the next one. That is phlegmatic what individuals. And so for phlegmatic individuals too, they are calm, and you see that they are also what reliable. I hope you get that. They are reliable. So for these people, most of the times they need information before what they do their operation. So they are always relying on either, let's say, those that find themselves in the blood, that is sanguine, or the thinkers. Do you get it? And so for melancholic people, their roles normally, that is research and development. They always need information to build something. I hope you get that. And also, you see that they are also found around human resources, operations management. That is their roles in what organizations. I hope you get that. And so here they are known as what watchers, because we say phlegmatic individuals whose body systems contain an excessive proportion of what phlegm, and anyone whose body contains an excessive proportion of phlegm, that person is what calm. That person do not like what talking. I hope you get that. And so these people, you just talk to them when they are angry. They just keep it within them. They are introverts. They don't like talking. Do you get it? And so anytime they are angry, they are being tempered, they just keep it within them and move on. So everything that you do, they just watch you. That is why they are called what? Watchers. I hope you get that. And also, let's move on to the choleric. And so for choleric to these people are most at times what? Leaders, right? And so they are decisive when it comes to results too. They are results driven, they have confidence and all this. And so you see that choleric individuals, on the other hand, had excess what of yellow bile and were bad tempered and irritable, right? And so you see that they are extroverts, they are quick tempered, they are quick thinkers, they are active. And so these are all qualities of what? A leader. I hope you get that. And so that is why they are known as what? Doers. They are known as doers. And so that is choleric. And so most of the times in organizations, some of their roles are the executive leadership, management, and also what? Entrepreneurship. So when they ask you, let's say someone who possesses what, or someone who is an executive leader, where does the person finds himself when it comes to the for him moral what perspective? And so that is what choleric, right? That is the yellow bile. They are what? Doers. And so let's move on. So here is it. You see that the blood, they are what? Their temperament, we classify them as what? Sanguine, right? And when it comes to their behavior, they are what? Passionate and what? Cheerful. I hope you get that. And also, we have phlegm. That is phlegmatic. That is the name of their temperament, and they are sluggish, right? So they are introverts. And when you come to the black bile too, they are what? Melancholic, right? That is brooding. Yes. And this is melancholic. They are the thinkers, right? And when it comes to the yellow bile are the those who, the leaders, right? Yes, those who are aggressive, they are quick tempered and all that. And so with trait theory, the big 5 factor model that we are going to look at. So when it comes to the trait theory, we have another section that we are going to look at under the trait theory. That is the big 5 factor model, and it is also known as what? The ocean what perspective, right? Yes. And so you see that ocean starts with O, then you go to C, that is conscientiousness, you move to extraversion, you move to agreeableness, and what? Neuroticism. Okay. All right. So let's start from the top. That is openness to experience, right? Openness to experience. So you see that this trait refers to how open-minded and curious some people are, right? And so you see that people enjoy trying new things, exploring new ideas, and also they always want to be what? Creative. I hope you get that. And so you see that a typical example is let's say a person who loves traveling and trying new foods has high openness towards experience. Some people also travel globally just because they want to explore, right? They want to associate themselves with what? Different cultures. That is what? Openness to experience. And let's also look at the conscientiousness, that is C. And so for this one, you see that this trait refers to how organized, responsible, and reliable some people are. So you see that they plan ahead. So they have this notion that they must always plan ahead, set goals, and follow through on what? Commitment. They must be committed to what? The organization. They are most of the times what? Disciplined in the organization. I hope you get it. So that is why we say conscientiousness people are always what? Goal focused, right? Yes. And so those are the other end are what? Disorganized. So those that are not conscientious are what? Disorganized. Okay, so let's move on to our next slide. That is extraversion, right? And so with extraversion, here we are talking about how assertive you are. Are you outgoing or are you sociable? Do you get it? And so sometimes you see that people are eager, or people when group assignments, or let's say in a meeting, you see that there are some people that always lead discussions, and so these people can be classified as what? Under extraversion, under the big 5 factor or model. I hope you get that. And so they are sociable, they are assertive, energetic. That is for extraversion or extravertive what? People. And agreeableness. So this one talks about what? Kindness. How you put others' needs before you. You get it? Thinking about others ahead of yourself. Do you get it? Let's say you are hungry, you have food, and someone is also hungry. You just give your food to the person. Do you get it? So that one is what? Agreeableness. And so let's say a person who finds himself in social situations, and lead, let's say, group project as high agreeable, because sometimes you see people who always put the whole need of the group before them. I hope you get it. And you see that a person who always listens actively and shows empathy towards others has what? High agreeableness. Do you get it? So showing empathy to the whole group. Sometimes you may have group discussions, someone may be absent, but still you may include a person when you are doing what? Presentations. And all these are what? A feature of the agreeableness. And the last one is what? Neuroticism. So neuroticism talks about what? The emotions. It refers to how sensitive, anxious, or emotional you are. Do you get it? And so how you are able to cope with what? Pressure. Do you get it? So are you self-confident and secure? Are you that kind of people with emotional stability? And so that refers to the neuroticism. Do you get it? And so neuroticism talks about you having the necessary confidence. You get it, feeling secure and calming yourself down in the organization. I hope you get that. Yes. And let's move on to, right, so here we have it. All that things we have discussed here is here. Okay. So that is ocean what? Perspective. OCEAN. Ocean perspective. That's the 5-factor model. Okay. So the next thing that we are going to talk about is, so this one we are saying, for example, conscientiousness is related to what? Job performance, because it assesses personal characteristics such as dependability, right? Careful, thorough, responsible. Because we are saying conscientiousness deals with what? Goal focused, being disciplined, right? And organized. So that is in relation to what? Organizational what? Behavior. And so that is it. We have Cartel's 16 perspective personality what factor. This one is also a perspective. And so this one used factor analysis. That is primary factors visible. That is visible to behavioral what tendencies. And we also have surface traits as building blocks that make up what personality. And so initially he had what 12 factors, but through questionnaires and research, he then developed what 16 factors. Do you get it? 16 factors. And so let's look at the psychodynamic perspective. The psychodynamic perspective. So the whole thing about psychodynamic was developed by Sigmund Freud, right? And so Sigmund Freud developed the psychodynamic perspective, and he talked about what the consciousness, pre-consciousness, and the unconsciousness what motives. Do you get it? And so here we are interested in the things or the psychological processes that determines what way of thinking, feeling, and what acting or behaving. Do you get it? And so let's jump into the perspective. Here we say the psychodynamic perspective. Everything about this is what talks about the role of unconscious processes in shaping behavior and also your personality. And sometimes the ideas also continue to what influence contemporary psychology and what your psychodynamics. I hope you get that. And so basically this one talks about what your way of thinking, your way of feeling, and also what acting, right? And so we have it is determined by conscious, pre-conscious, and unconscious brain activity. So with the unconscious part of the mind exerting great influence on the conscious and behavior. Do you get it? So the unconscious part of the mind is what we refer to as what? The id. That is the unconscious part of the mind. There is it. Do you get it? And there's the conscious part. The ego is the conscious part, and the superego is what? Your behavior. That is morality, right? So let's look more about it. And so the id. Here we are saying Latin word for what? It, right? So the id is what? The unconscious portion of what? The personality. And so you see that our basic desires and needs, as in wanting power or recognition in the workplace, is what we determine as what? Id. I hope you get it. And so this one we are saying it is what? Pleasure principle, and it is always at what? Birth. So have it in mind that the id is always at what? Birth. And here you don't have any what? Consciousness. Do you get it? Anything that you desire for, you want it to be done. Do you get it? And so we term it as what? The pleasure principle. Do you get it? Seeking for immediate gratification of impulses produced by innate drives such as what? Aggression. Do you get it? And so here we say when you relate the id to organizational behavior, that is when you see individuals are desiring for what? Power, right? And what? Recognition in that organization. And you see that in that particular organization, those people that find themselves under this id, they are what? Aggressive. They are aggressive. And so when it comes to allocation of resources or sharing resources, you see that there is always aggressive what? Competition for resources, or either what? Recognition. I hope you get that. So the id is what you desire for. So that is why it is called pleasure principle. And the ego also talks about the rational thinking. Do you get it? The rational thinking. Here you know the reality. And so let's say it is the thinking, organizing, and protective of self. So it is absent at birth, because at birth you don't know the reality. Do you get it? And eventually develop out of the id. And so it is true that it is true that aggression and also, let's say, the pleasure, that you will develop what? An ego. You develop what? Let's say reality. So you will try to control your id. Do you get it? You try to control that kind of pleasure, that kind of desire for power or the immediate gratification. you try to control them. That is why we call the ego as what? The reality principle. Because whilst you are growing, you will come to realize that it is not anything that you may ask for that is supposed to be provided to you. Do you get it? So let's say for the id, at birth, you may be seriously asking or desiring to what? Play with knife. I hope you get that. Because you don't have any idea about it, or you are unconscious about it. But immediately you get to the ego, that is it. For the ego, that is where you try to understand the reasons why you shouldn't play with knife, or when you are even crossing the road, you should take necessary careful, right? And so that is the ego, and the ego is known as what? The reality what? Principle. And the super ego, this is what? Above ego. And so for super ego, we say that is what? The moral what aspect of the personality. So this guides the individual to do the right thing. And in the workplace, you see that it also leads to what? Ethical decisions and self-reflection, right? So you see that in the organization, any decision that will be taken by let's say a person that exhibits what? A super ego, you see that decision is what? Ethical, right? And so for super ego, that one talks about what? The moral principle, doing what is right and ignoring what is wrong. So in an organization, you always have to do what is expected of you to do in the organization. Do you get it? So you need to follow what? The organization's culture. So under super ego, there is always a positive work culture. You see that it's encouraged good leadership and also decision making, because you know what is good and what is wrong. Okay, so that is what we are actually talking about. So this is because it consists of learned values and demand of culture and what? Society, which are absorbed in childhood as part of a person's upbringings. Do you get it? And so here we are going to look at what? Sigmund Freud's what? Defense mechanisms. Do you get it? We have a lot of mechanisms, but we are going to look at few, and we bring those mechanisms in relation to what? Organizational what? Life. Do you get it? And so let's move on. We have the first one as what? Repression. And so for repression, we say it involves pushing uncomfortable thoughts or memories into what? Your unconscious mind. Do you get it? And so whilst you do that, it helps you what? Avoid or prevent some of, let's say, unconscious motives in your what? Your mind. I hope you get that. So let's say, example, you've had a car accident. Do you get it? That you don't want to remember it again. So you always try to forget about that. That is what we call what? Repression. You get it? Or not acknowledging your feelings for someone because it's too what? Painful. I hope you get that. And so when it comes to repression, you are just trying to bring, or you are just trying to hide some conscious what? Motives into the unconscious part. Do you get it? Or unconscious part is when you are not aware, and conscious part is when you are aware. Or the unconscious part is, let's say, when you have forgotten or you don't know. Do you get it? And so repression is just like deleting it from your conscious part and putting them into your what? Unconscious part. That is, let's say in a computer, when you delete something from your desktop, it being on the desktop becomes what? Conscious, because you are aware it is there, right? And so when you delete it from the desktop, it goes to what? The recycle bin. And so the recycle bin here becomes what? The unconscious part. So you are trying to delete everything from the mind and put them into what? The unconscious parts. Okay, so for denial here, we are saying it is when you refuse to accept some of what? Uncomfortable truth or reality or what? Perspective. Do you get it? And so you see that here people try to avoid what? Emotional discomfort, but they know the reality, but because they still want to engage into it, they will defend that particular act using what? A defense what? Mechanism that we call what? Denial. Do you get it? So a specific example is, you see, smokers may refuse to admit to themselves that smoking is bad to their health. They know smoking is bad to their health, but they may refuse, or they may tell you something for you to know that, um, let's say a smoker, yes, let's say a smoker denying the health risk of what smoking to avoid what quitting. So anything that you say about any health issues or any health thing that you say about smoking, that person may not accept, because that person is not ready to what quit. I hope you get that. So that is what denial. And so this is what under the field what perspective. And so let's move on to the next one, that is displacement. And so for displacement too, you see that this is whereby you just try to redirect some emotions or impulses, right, from the original source to, let's say, another source. Do you get it? So you are just trying to displace, let's say, your unconscious motive, or you are trying to displace which word, let's say emotion, do you get it, into a different direction. For example, boy shout at his younger sister after a teacher gives him a bad grade. Do you get it? And so the bad grade has affected the boy. Do you get it? And the boy is too emotional. So instead of the boy to share the emotional early, he will just shout on the, let's say, the little sister when the little sister does something wrong. I hope you get that. And so it is not that particular thing the sister is doing which is making him shout at her, but it is rather the emotion or the emotional situation that the person finds himself in. That is why the person is trying to direct the emotion to a different side. I hope you get that. And also, let's look at the next one, that is sublimation. And so sublimation too talks about you trying to substitute what objects, yes, trying to substitute your emotions with what objects. You get? So here we say people divert unwanted impulses into socially approved what thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. So for example, you can talk about what, let's say, sports is an example of putting our emotions. And also writing a story about your anger instead of acting on it. Sometimes you can also talk about the whole thing about displacement is that you are trying sublimation is that you are just trying to what build or construct, let's say, a negative emotions into let's say a positive emotion. Do you get it? Let's say you are angry, and so instead of acting on the angriness, you just take a book and you write. Do you get it? So you are trying to sublimize it. And also, let's move on to the next one. We have rationalization. And so this also talks about giving what logical excuses to justify unacceptable what behavior. And so you see that this mechanism makes excuses to avoid what feelings or guilt or sometimes shame. Do you get it? And so by rationalizing in individuals, you see that to convince themselves what their behaviors that they should what accept, instead of telling them or making them accept whatever that it has been, you are just trying to construct, let's say, or providing enough what excuse or evidence. Do you get it? Yes, for that particular thing that has what occurred. And so in rationalization, they are trying to what rationalize it, they are trying to make sense out of it. And so, for example, a person who passed over for an award says he or she did not really want it anyway. Do you get it? Or let's say you see that someone, let's say awards night, and someone did not get the award, although he or she was nominated, and that particular person did not get the award. What the person will say when it comes to rationalization is that I didn't like the award. If I had liked it, I would probably work towards it. Meanwhile, maybe he did, but he did not get. So he's just trying to find excuses to that. Do you get it? And so that is the rationalization, trying to find excuses to your behavior. Or you can say, I failed because my teacher hates me. You are not blaming yourself because you are not blaming yourself for, let's say, not studying or something, but you are just trying to find excuses or make sense out of what your failure. So that is what we are talking about here. And so one of the aspects of personality is currently drawing attention is what? The locus of control. So we are also going to look at what? The locus of control. And so we say this shows people differ in the context to which they believe they can shape and control their own environment. Or people differ in how much control they believe they have over situations. And so we have the internal locus and we also have what? The external locus orientation. So for the internal locus orientation, you see that they believe they control what's their life. Those people in the organization or those people under internal locus of control believe that they have what? Control over their life or event or any outcome that will come to their life. Do you get it? So let's say you are doing something and a result comes. Let's say you studied, right? And at the end of the examination, the result comes and you have really passed. That person thinks he did it himself. And when the person fails, that person will also what? Blame he or herself, right? And so that is what the internal locus of control. And so when it comes to the organizational implication of this internal locus of control, these people have higher job satisfaction and motivation because they always believe in themselves, right? And that is why you can also say they have that is sense of personal responsibility and accountability. They always believe that they are accountable for and they are responsible for, right? Then when you talk about the external locus control, this one also talks about people believing in those aspects of what the environment that has lack, or you can talk about faith, or let's say blessings or grace or others. Do you get it? And so that is external. And so you see that these people do not believe in themselves. These people, they are low responsible and accountable, right? Yes, because they always blame or they always give points to let's say things that they find themselves in. And so people that are under external control, you see that they are more likely to resist change and blame external with circumstances. Do you get it? And you can also say for them, they are largely responsible for their fate and they see little connection between their own actions and what happens to them, own actions and what happens to them. Okay, and so anything that happens to them, they see that thing as they are not those that cause the results, but rather what? The environment. I hope you get it. Yes, and so that is the external locus control. So for have it in mind that the internal, you believe in yourself. When you fail, you are the one. When you pass, you are the one, right? And when it comes to the external, that is when you fail, it is what? Your lecture, right? And when you pass, it is your lecture, right? So for them, they have little what? Responsibility and also accountability. And let's also move on to the next one. That is what other personal perspectives. So we have what? Type A and B personalities. So type A personality here, we are saying they have an intense desire to achieve. They are also extremely competitive, have a sense of agency. They are therefore prone to high blood pressure and more likely to have coronary heart disease. And so what you are saying is type A personality, they are always competitive. You say that they are aggressive, they are impatient, and these people, they are also achievement oriented because they are always aggressive. They always want to do things and achieve their results. I hope you get it. And so one thing that you can say about them, that they are high achievers, they are always motivators, and they are also leaders. I hope you get that. Then when you talk about type type B personalities. Here they are relaxed and easygoing individuals and have a stronger relationship with other people. They are more prone to what? Procrastination. So they always need some people to work with. Let's say in an organization, if you give them a separate jobs, those that find themselves or the type B personalities, they are always they always want to form what groups. Do you get it? And so for these people, they will procrastinate the work, they will procrastinate the research because they can't take responsibility on themselves. Do you get it? But for type A, they are always aggressive and ready to work. Okay, so that is what we are talking about. You see, type A, there is high need for achievement, aggressive, competitive, restless, alert, constantly feeling under pressure, impatient. And when you come to type B personality, you see that low need for achievement because they can't just take responsibility on themselves. They are easygoing, slow paced, they are relaxed, not usually feeling under what? Pressure. And so then let's look at the organizational and human resource management application of what? Personality. So this one talks about John Holland, what theory that he brought, or his work on the personality and work characteristics. And so John Holland said people work, or people find themselves in organizations, or the kind of work that is associated to what? Their well-being or their individual what? Features. I hope you get that. And so it involved personality or job fit model, which included traits matched to occupation, 6 personality types. That is, so we will discuss about the 6 personality types. That is realistic, investigative, social, conventional, enterprising, and artistic. So we look at that. Then let's look at the conclusion of John Holland. He said his conclusions show, it says his conclusion shows intrinsic differences in personalities exist and are practical relative to workplace match of what? Personality and job type. Do you get it? So, different types of occupations are better suited to certain types of what? Personality. Do you get it? So it is the personality and the kind of occupation that they find themselves in. I hope you get that. So this meaning that employees in workplace or occupations congruent with their what? Personality types should be more satisfied, more than likely to remain with the organization than employees in incongruent occupation. Let's say you studied science, do you get it, and you want to be a doctor. So if you find yourself in any health society organization, or let's say health organization, you must be able to what? Work. You must be satisfied there because it is in line with what? Your personality. I hope you get that. Then you can also talk about let's say people who are extroverted. Do you get it? Those who are assertive, those who are talkative, right? Or those who are thinkers. If you are talkative, it means in an organization, if they put you at the marketing department, you must be able to what? Work. You must be satisfied there than someone who is, let's say, phlegmatic, someone who is watcher, someone who is that quiet. Do you get it? If that person is placed in the marketing at the marketing department, that person may not be able to work. So that person will be dissatisfied. So the whole thing about John Holland's characteristics and personality is that your personality and the kind of occupation that you do, if your personality is in line with the occupation, you must be satisfied. If your personality is not in line with the objective, that individual will be what? Dissatisfied, right? And so let's look at John Holland, the 6 characteristics he talked about. One is realistic, and so the realistic talks about what? Practical, right? Detail oriented. And so this one, typical example is the technicians and skilled trade person. You can talk about engineers as well. Do you get it? And that one is the realistic. Then when you talk about the investigative, this one talks about what? Analytical or curiosity. Do you get it? And so investigative also talks about what? Research work. And so they always want to what? Investigate. So these people find themselves in research departments and also management operation. Do you get it? And we have the third one as what? Social. And so the social one talks about what? Helping, supportive, communicative. You get them. A specific example is teachers, right? Then you can also talk about what? Counselors. So that is the social, right? The social. Then when we talk about the conventional also this way, the organized, structured, and detailed focus, right? So especially detailed focus people are those that are always giving details about what their work, especially what the finance or the accountant. You can also talk about the HR people. And also you can talk about administrators. Do you get it? Administrators. So these people are what? Conventional, because work is unambiguous. They are rule regulated or orderly, right? Yes. And so that is conventional. Then enterprising. And so enterprising also talks about what? Ambitious or confidence. Enterprising also talks about ambitious or confidence. And also persuasive, being able to persuade, right? That is the enterprising. So examples are what? The managers, entrepreneurs, sales professionals. You must be able to what? Persuade when you are the marketing department. Do you get it? Or when you are a consultant, or let's say a counselor. Then artistic. Art talks about what? Creative. So here it talks about architecture, painters, musicians, actors, and they are all what? Artistic what? People. So that one talks about what? The personality and job fit model. Okay. So in terms of recruitment and selection processes, organizations adopt measures such as person job fit, person organizational fit, employment test, right? So these are all things that they look. So for the person job fit, this one talks about let's say your skills that are necessary for the occupation. Do you get it? Then when you talk about the person organizational fit, here we are comparing this person's job fit, the skills you have, we are comparing it with the organizational goal. That those your skills, are they in line with the organizational goal? That is the person organizational fit. You get it? Then we can do a employment test as well. That is personality test, or they can also look at you being extroverted or let's say agreeable or openness to experience, whatever, right? Then for graphology, this one talks about your writing skills, right? Then work sample test, you can be given a work to also do. Then interviews as well, information review through what? Social media. They can also check when it comes to recruitment and selection. They can also check for from social media platforms the kind of person you are. Okay, so this brings us to the end of today's lecture on what? Personality. Once again, my name is Afari Ernest, and this is grade 8 tutorials. Please kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our video, and please, if you like the video too, make sure you recommend us at the comment section. And until then, goodbye.